We're glad to have you back. You're still watching FCT Brief, and we're still discussing women in leadership, and we still have with us in the studio a very pretty lady, Mrs. Osasu Igbenidium Oguchi. Well, it's still good to have you in our studio, and thank you for still shedding light on this very important topic. Now, before we went on the break, you were talking about a few barriers: structural barriers, systemic barriers, financial barriers that stand against the women. What would you say are the support systems that are in place to help women overcome this kind of barriers?
It starts with the legal. I feel like the legal aspect is the most important hurdle that we need to cross. Because if you do not have a piece of legislation that is backing you, then unfortunately we'll keep on repeating the same cycle. In Nigeria, if you look at our political trajectory, we haven't made a consistent increase or improvement in terms of the representation of women in parliament. It's always shuffled. Sometimes we have about 10%, sometimes in some assemblies it drops to 7%. As of today, we have only 14 women in the House of Representatives out of 360 members. In the Senate, we only have 4 women out of 109 members. It was better in the 9th Assembly, it was better in the 8th Assembly. So this state is actually very poor. So there are a lot of barriers, as you mentioned. They're structural, they're financial, they're cultural, but I think the legal aspect is the hurdle that we really need to scale through first before we can even go towards addressing the other aspects. And that's what the reserve seats for women's bill seeks to do.
Okay, there's one phrase I don't like people use, and it is that let's give them. And I ask, who are the let's give them? It's as if they have the power to distribute. Now let's talk about the capacity of the women. They say, what are you bringing to the table? Tell us, what is the capacity of the women, the capacity of Nigerian women in helping to rebuild Nigeria?
I tell people all the time, women are peace builders. Women are strategic thinkers. Women, as you can see from our private sector, are leading at the forefront. Our banking industry right now is led by predominantly women. Our fintech industry is also led by women. I was looking at the story of a young girl who created this app, Bamboo. I'm sure you guys know about the trading app. The co-founder is a woman in her early 30s, right? So women are leading at the forefront in so many different industries. Why not politics? Women are proven to have the capacity, as I've said before, and there's sometimes you hear the questions, yes, you're saying let's give them, is it tokenism? Do they have the capacity? I said, maybe we should start asking that about the male folk who occupy power today. If we ask those integral questions, then I think our nation would have developed a lot further than it is today. So competence and capacity is required from both sexes, right? The men need to have the capacity, so do the women. And what we are trying to do while simultaneously advocating for the passage of this bill is to continue to build on the already established capacity of women folk who intend to contest for office so that we can build this nation. Nigeria cannot continue to fly on just one wing. We cannot continue to fight and build with one hand tied behind our backs. That is what we are currently doing by excluding 50% of the population. We can't think strategically, we can't think creatively if we do not involve women in governance. So it's high time that we do this. The world is a global village. The world is evolving faster than you and I can even comprehend. With the advent of technology, with the infusion of AI in our everyday lives, we cannot afford to leave half of our population behind. By 2050, Africa will be the largest continent in the entire world. 1 in 3 Black people are Nigerians. Can we really afford not to involve women in politics and in governance and in decision making? I'll leave you to that to answer.
Well, some parties try to give women free nomination forms at the last election. Quite a very kind gesture, I must say. But aside this, did it go really far? And even if this does not work, what other support would you say political parties can also put in place to support the women just before this bill actually passes and is assented to?
We say thank you to the political parties who put that policy in place to either reduce, subsidize the cost of nomination forms, because we know they are astronomically high, right? So thank you to them. However, we can do more, right? Giving nomination forms to women, but still putting structural barriers where you've already decided who the candidates that would emerge is. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you're just, pretending, right? So why don't we create an opportunity? Because women will still be contesting the general elections and the traditional seats. Why don't we ensure that we create more space in our political parties for women to come in, not just as women leaders, right? Not just as, for women positions, but they come in and participate fairly, right? So open up the space, create structures, create policies within your political parties for women to build with you. Political structures have traditionally been known as the boys' club. I think it would make and Mr. President, you alluded to it in your opening remarks, where Mr. President was saying that he does not want a one-party state. He's a Democrat. He encourages, other political parties to build and to contest. So for the political parties who want to challenge, the incumbent political party in office, ensure that you allow women come and participate in your party to lead from the forefront. This is the only way that you're going to make any true progress.
Okay, let's take a look at this aspect, because politics is a trickish game. Now, it's possible that, a seat is reserved for the women folk, then the men behind the scene play the game to determine the type of woman that emerges. What are your own type of group or groups like yours doing to ensure that women that are assertive, not the yes sir type of women that can bring effective change into the system, are the ones that picks the ticket at the end of the day, not the one that some persons decide for them?
That's a very important point, and that's also another thing that we're looking at. That's why we're urging political parties now to put women who are competent within your party. Because remember, the way this is going to work when the Reserved Seats for Women's Bill becomes law by the special grace of God is that each political party is bringing forth their best candidate. The APC will bring forth, its best woman. The Labour Party, the PDP, the coalition government, all of them will bring forth the best person. They will then compete against each other. And by the grace of God, we're hoping that it's the best woman who will win that position. So it's very important that political parties now start to think strategically about how do we ensure we're fielding our best candidates so that we stand a chance at winning, across all these seats in the 36 states and in the FCT. So it's very important that we start to build now structurally, internally, that you're ensuring that you're welcoming of more women who have the intellect and the capacity to lead.
So what are organizations like yours doing about grassroots mobilization? Because as we all know, when it comes to election, the votes come more from the grassroots, and we have more of those women there. What is your group doing to reach out to these women, to educate them that, look, when you see a woman coming in, support her. Don't be moved by financial inducements, or what is your organization doing in that regard?
Brilliant question. We all know politics is local. So organizations such as TOS Foundation and a host of others, you have Women in Politics, you have WIMBIZ, WIMPO, you have so many others who are mobilizing at the grassroots level. The League of Women Voters of Nigeria are also mobilizing. We're all going to marketplaces. In fact, the National Association of Market Women did a solidarity walk asking for the passage of this bill. So they're all hands-on, and they're speaking with each other, they're educating themselves, they're sensitizing their communities to ensure that when this bill passes into law, that all women, irrespective of age, irrespective of social class, are all coming out to support their women folk who have the competence and the capacity. And also the students. Young women across Nigeria are mobilizing themselves en masse to throw their support behind this bill, and also to educate their peers that this bill will transform the trajectory of our nation developmentally.